Hey, hi guys. This is Thunder E from Booredatwork. And if you're joining us at this very lovely hour, which it is cloudy and overcast outside, you can't see because it looks all white and bright there, just because of lights. Welcome to our hangout discussion talking about Apple buying Beats. Yes, that's right. Beats headphones that are now on my wall, but Beats.
Have you not reviewed Beats headphones on Board at Work?
Oh, I've reviewed a bunch. I've reviewed a bunch. They're just not worth the placement, I think.
Oh, wow. So they just don't have a place up on the wall.
Not
I
on the
get it.
wall, not on the wall. They are a
Okay.
fashion student. But before we continue, we have our good friend, Mr. Juan Bagnell from Some Gotcha Guy. How's it going, man?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. West Coast represent. Let's do this.
Yes, yes. So word broke out yesterday, if you haven't heard, that Apple was looking to buy Beats for $3.2 billion. Yes, that's right. 3.2 billion. Now, the reason why this is very interesting is that Apple hasn't bought any company that large for a while. I
No, it's
mean, it's been
I
ages, right?
yeah, I can't think of the last company that they really optioned that was this expensive.
Yeah, so that is very interesting that they did that or they're doing that. The other thing too is that finally we're getting confirmation that um, this is actually happening. Well, because Tyrese and Dr. Dre put up a video today talking about the first rap billionaire. So, I mean, I think the deal's done. I don't think Dr. Dre would be that foolish to do this without actually signing some stuff and saying, okay, it's done. It's just that Apple hasn't come out because Beats is a private company, a private owned
Yeah.
company. So you don't necessarily have to put out a statement immediately. If this was a public company, yeah, then as soon as you mention it, you're putting out a statement, or as soon as even it leaks, you're putting out a statement and saying, "Hey, we're buying the company." So my
Right.
question is, your thoughts on this? I'll just say it's supposed purchase, but I think Dr. Dre has told us it's been bought. So what do you think about this purchase, about Beats buying? Apple buying Beats.
I gotta say, like, it's not. This has nothing to do with Apple. I'm a little upset. Not like, oh, I'm so sad, Beats Audio. It wasn't like I was any great big fan of Beats Audio, but the whole
Okay.
point of Beats buying back their shares from HP were supposedly that they were going to start entering more professional markets. They were going to start looking at other opportunities to provide audio solutions for a variety of different technology, automotive, and recording type solutions. And that was the word that was sort of handed to us why they were leaving HP. They didn't want to be beholden to one technology company, and they were going to be looking at all these other opportunities to diversify the Beats Audio brand for vertical markets, blah blah blah, synergy, proactive paradigm, all that nonsense. So the first thing that they do is the first major move they make as a company after leaving HP is to sell to Apple. I mean that kind of sucks. I mean, I was really looking forward to seeing, like, maybe without the influence of HP in house, what it was that they were going to come up with, and now pretty much it's just going to be shifting right over to Apple. I think this is a great move for Apple because the iOS, the iPhone and iPad brand were sort of built on the old iPod. Like, it was a major selling point that iPhones had, the DNA of the iPod, the most popular MP3 player of all time, baked into them. And so to kind of continue on that, why not start including the audio hardware that comes with Beats certification? I think it worked for HTC. I think it worked really well, and I still think they have some of the best headphone jacks on any mobile phones that you can buy now. So for Apple, it's a great move.
Okay, well, it's interesting you said that because also they did the buyback from HTC first of all
That's
last
what I
year.
meant. It was the buyback from HTC. I was
Okay,
saying HP, not
okay.
HTC. Because HP also included Beats Audio. I'm sorry.
So,
Everything that I just said, swap HP with HTC.
okay.
They both start with an H. They're probably the same company in
So
my mind.
company, yeah. So so it's interesting you mentioned that they were trying to focus on doing things different and a whole future expansion of the company. And the first thing they do, it's like an Oculus move, Rift move, right? Almost,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I look at this and I see a couple of things here that's interesting. And I was having this discussion with Sam actually before we started this hangout, and he was talking about he talking about he says Apple's trying to do something very big here. And that might be the case because really, in terms of innovation, they haven't done anything big. They've let Samsung run its course, so Samsung has kind of stalled a little bit on that innovation side, and then everybody else is doing different things, innovation. But if you look at all the different things, they bought a few smaller companies that have to do with low-powered chipsets. They also have been acquiring a lot of Nike people, like a whole
Yeah.
bunch of Nike folks.
Yeah.
Yesterday, on Twitter, the head of the Nokia Lumia camera PureView line,
Mm-hmm.
is working at Apple now. Now, granted, doesn't mean that overnight it's going to be better than Nokia stuff because
But they at least acknowledge that the iPhone has sort of fallen behind
falling
in the
behind
camera
this.
world.
So
Yeah.
department. So that's very interesting to see. And then you now have the news that they're buying Beats. Now you put all that together. Sam's thinking is that Apple is going for a centered approach of the TV is still the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
The approach that we know everyone's trying to take. Microsoft is taking it, Sony is pushing back into it. Even technically, if you think about it, Steam. Let's just go even to the off arena. Wants to make a Steam box for your TV. So basically, everybody remembers that the TV is still the soul of all the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to go. Apple really wants to attack that in a full force. So how do you do it? By picking all these different pieces. Where if you have the Nike Fuel Band people, you have a smartwatch connectivity, you have low powered emissions. You're looking at and I'm going to quote Sam here. There's going to be one more major purchase from Apple that might have to do with somebody who actually makes TV. So I want you all to guess that one. It's not Samsung or LG, so just forget this guy. But somebody else. Think about it and think about where that fits in the market. But as it comes to the whole Beats purchase, I'm a little miffed about it
Yeah.
because you look around, everyone's been speculating today. There's a lot of speculation here. Like, why did they buy Beats? This is why Apple buy Beats. And first one, if you look at people like Engadget and The Verge has talked about, well, Spotify. Spotify has been kicking Apple's ass with streaming music now for the last 2 years. Just like iTunes Music is not doing well. Now they're saying they're looking to buy Beats Music because now Beats Music doesn't even come anywhere close to any of those two in my mindset. But maybe they're buying it because Beats Music has a different set of contract rules for streaming music, and they can push iTunes Music in that direction. That could be one thing, but it still doesn't justify the $3.2 billion.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's a pretty decent chunk of change for. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is also, like you said, improving the audio components of what do you call it again? Of iPods and
No. It's sort of just reinforcing that Apple started off this mobile push as a media and entertainment company too.
Exactly.
Bringing those types of audio and portable media experience.
Things together. And then there's also the fact that Jimmy Lovin, there's just a lot of talk that Apple wanted to bring him on because he revolutionized the way
Jimmy Iovine.
Iovine, I said Lovin.
It's like every time I see his name, it's the capital I, and if it's not the right font, it looks like a lowercase L.
Oh yeah, exactly. So he, there's word about Apple wants to bring him in because this guy he's a music mogul. He's the head of Universal.
Well, and he was the co-head of Beats. So again, his involvement in a lot of the sort of operations on that would be beneficial for a company like Apple.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's more of a combination of a lot of things here. I think I don't think it's one set thing because I don't think technology-wise, I don't think Beats has the audio technology that wows anything. Some people says it's a technology, and I'm like, if you want to buy technology, you know what? Go buy Byron Wilkins. Go buy Bose. I'm serious. If you think of pure technology, those are the guys you want to buy.
Well, I mean, the thing about Beats and where they built their reputation though was on was on the ability to sort of construct preamps. The little pre's that go into our phones so that when we connect our headphones, those little amps that generate sound for our headphones. You buy a Bowers and Wilkins, that's sort of the output stage. You know what I mean? Like they make amazing headphones and kind of the same degree like Bose is sort of known for the speakers and the headphones that you listen to music onto. Not necessarily as well known for the hardware that generates the sound that goes to those headphones. So I would imagine that Beats was probably sitting on a couple decent little patents for things like EQ, for noise reduction, for that kind of signal processing.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I
I
really
don't
don't.
disagree. Like
Yeah.
if they bought Bose, that would be huge. Apple and Bose would be an amazing combination, especially with the way that they do like sound bars and stuff
Bars and
like
stuff
that.
like that.
You could
Yeah.
build Bose speakers into the next iMac. That would be awesome.
No, but yeah, but also thinking right, if they really go that TV push, right?
Hmm.
Then your audio companies really come into play and things like that. But I understand also the idea of preamps there. You can say they're the ones. I would say I don't think they have patents for it. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I think they're the ones who fine tuned the
Yeah.
idea of preamps, and they have a certain way they do it that nobody else does.
Yeah. Well, and also like that's how they built their rep was
Right.
on that kind of audio signal processing and manipulation. Because
Yeah.
you listen to Beats gear, and there's definitely some software secret sauce they like to throw in to try and spruce up the sound of our music.
I know that's very true. Now we have a couple of comments here in the Q&A. So
Already
Derek,
Q&A up. I should probably.
uh, yeah, Derek 11 says Apple slash iTunes is a premier music provider. What better way to supplement that with a top-notch music audio accessory manufacturer?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
I agree, except I don't consider them a top-notch music audio accessory manufacturer. So that's just me saying, but that's a good point. I mean, no offense to Beats. Now, some of you are probably listening to this and going like, "Wow, Thunder E, what's up hate for Beats?" I don't necessarily hate Beats. I just don't think they are the best quality in terms of audio. Um,
I'll
what
I'll I'll amend that. I don't know that they're the best bang for buck. You start spending money for Beats at that
Beats?
tier, and I'm not going to say they're a bad solution. I actually think they're a pretty good solution, but I don't necessarily think they always compare well against other manufacturers at the
Manufacturers.
same price point.
Yeah, I mean, true. The reason why I don't like them is because they are only skewed to one genre of music, and people are confused about that. That's the
Right.
thing. If Beats really
Get
just
that.
came out and says, "Oh, all we do is handle hip hop and dubstep and maybe some house music,"
I think that would be a more accurate or fair way to.
exactly, and I'll be like, "Yeah, you know what? Sure, that's cool." But if you're talking about music in general, and you want to, because a lot of people, whenever you're spending that kind of money on headphones, you're like, if I'm spending $100, this thing should cure cancer in my mind. This is music, right? I
Wow.
mean, I'm just saying, some people think at least you should give them a huge bang for your buck at that
Right.
point. And if it doesn't hit that range, then it becomes one of those things like, yeah, it makes some difference. But that's why I don't like Beats in that regard, and that's why I don't have Beats in the wall. But I digress from that. I continue with the Q&A comments here. Lou Rod says Beats will be on the new iPhone 7 with a price tag of 400 on contract with the earbuds. I agree. We will see Beats accessories definitely. If this whole deal is finalized and full, because it looks like it is, but we're not sure. Although technically Dr. Dre confirmed it, we definitely will see better earbuds. At least on the base level, I'll give them this. In iPhones, we will see better earbuds, which means it will force every other company to have better audio accessories in their phone. So
Yeah.
take what HTC has done with Harman Kardon. They might actually now go to Harman Kardon and seal a deal to say,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
just do this continually, right?
Well,
Let's
and
push that forward.
especially following that HTC move, like partnering with a manufacturer like or like Bowers and Wilkins or someone like that
Yeah.
to now start doing like branded or packaged accessories, especially with the way that Apple has really great lock-in. If you
Mhm.
buy a pair of headphones specifically for the iPhone, chances are they're going to control more of the iPhone than a pair of generic buds on a Samsung. So
Yeah.
I think that could be a really smart way. And also we're hearing the potential for or I've been seeing rumors of audio devices or audio hardware that's starting to use the Lightning connector. So you could start getting high quality USB audio output directly through that Lightning connector accessory port.
Well, it wouldn't matter as long as it's still MP3, right?
Well, but that's just it. Is like that's kind of what this whole game has been
Yeah.
about, right? Like Beats Audio, the another part of the big play is that EQ manipulation is supposed to help improve the quality of low bit rate MP3s. We all know that that's
No,
pretty
no.
suspect, but I think for a lot of people, when you're listening on mid-range audio gear and you're listening to sort of a mid-range MP3 rip, those types of manipulations can sort of spruce up bass and high frequency, that smiley face EQ. So if we can start seeing an arms race in higher quality audio, I think Apple would be the perfect company to start releasing, what is it? What is their uncompressed? Is it AIFF? They could start releasing albums like 24-bit, 96 kilohertz albums,
Yeah,
as high
196.
quality, or 192, I guess would be
Yeah, 192. Yeah,
the
sorry,
top that we do right now. But
yeah.
they're the perfect company to catapult that. And if they already have relationships in place with headphone manufacturers, speaker manufacturers, and they've got sort of Beats special secret sauce baked into the devices directly, then that's a pretty compelling ecosystem. That actually makes me consider buying music from iTunes again.
I mean, yeah, true. It kind of reminds me of what musician has that FLAC player? It's called Pods or something. Oh my God, he
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't wait for that to come out because
Is
I'm.
it Neil Diamond?
Yeah, Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
Yes. Neil Diamond's MP3 player is. That's what I'm waiting for because that thing plays everything from MP3s, but also plays FLAC files at the highest, not 192, and then 144 kilohertz. I think, if I'm not mistaken. So the highest rate you can get
Right.
for any kind of music altogether.
What's funny is, and at a rate that most consumers just can't find music
Yeah.
that's produced at that rate. I mean, even CDs are going to be Red Book. They're going to be 1644.1.
For one,
And
exactly.
so I think the music industry has sort of missed out on an opportunity. Not missed out. They could still start it, but we're lacking. As video has gone into Blu-ray, and we're talking about 4K video.
Exactly.
There's a market for audio files out there. Every time you put out a digital track, to not have, an FLAC or FLAC version at higher than CD quality,
Yeah.
is a shame, because I would pay for that music, and it's disappointing that we haven't seen them progress with all of these changes in technology.
No, that's very true. We have another one here from Rod Johnson. He says the perfect match.
That's a great name, Rod
Johnson.
And he flexes his biceps like this.
Nice one, Rod. He says perfect match for Apple, as both companies consider themselves manufacturers of high-end products. It also elevates Apple's problem of having to create a cross-platform audio stream service, as they now own Beats Music service.
Mm-hmm. It's not saying like Apple doesn't have some music services. I think anything that helps them expand their portfolio is going to be a good thing right now, just because their streaming and cloud efforts haven't taken off as well as they'd hoped.
I agree there, because I think iTunes streaming might die, and it will be replaced with Beats, because then that's also on Android and Windows Phone. I think that makes more sense in that arena. Maybe this is one of their major pushes, because they want to. They've seen the erosion of Spotify, Google Music, Microsoft also with Xbox Music in there, as well as even Nokia Music too. Yes, Windows Phone has a smaller base, but Xbox fans, Xbox Music is actually very good. So if you want to erode into those markets, if you drop an iTunes, people will kind of go, oh, okay, whatever. But if you use a Beats Music, then that's a little different, where you can go, oh, okay, I got Beats headphones, right? Let me check it out, and stuff like that. So I think that might be one of the points to get into those markets and try and accommodate that in there. But it's also interesting to see what Apple is trying to do, because the orchestration they've been pulling for the last couple of months with different buyouts, and we haven't seen anything, because we've talked about how Apple, in the general scheme of things of products in terms of computing, is lagging behind. Microsoft has done this Windows push, and we're seeing the fruits of that now. And then Google's trying to do its own things. With Chrome and Android, but now it's literally focusing more on Android again to bring things forward. And then you now have Apple, where we haven't seen other than refreshes of the MacBook and things like that. So, how does all this play into the overall strategy? It's just interesting to see, because Apple's a very secretive company. We don't know. I think the other thing I wanted to kind of mention is that this also might be one of those reactionary measures from Apple to their investors. Investors like ICANN have been pressuring Apple to spend its cash, You know,
Yeah,
like
that I mean, really, that's the biggie for me is watching Apple finally make some strategic moves with that stockpile of dollar bills that they've just been sitting on. You know, yeah, it's nice when you can do sort of stock buybacks and you can treat your investors and you can you hook people up, but it's we're not seeing a company, I think, investing in R&D as much. I don't see Apple pushing into some of those exciting talking point territories. You know, the stuff that you sort of throw money at, not because you think it's going to make you a ton of money, but it's going to raise the cachet of your brand. I mean, Google's is been refining. They've actually pulled back, scaled back on some of their crazy experiments, but they still have, you know, like in any given day, they can put out a press release about something else happening with their self-driving cars, and the media is going to pick it up and blow that story up. They can
yeah.
talk about something with Google Glass, and the media is going to pick it up and talk about how invasive Google Glass is to your privacy. You know, like they have these little projects that they can sit there and push out that is just free press. And it
Yeah.
sort of keeps the global awareness of Google's ecosystem at the forefront. And Apple has really fallen behind in discussing that kind of brand ecosystem synergy, what have you, because we don't talk about that stuff. There are always going to be rumors, and they're always going to be really tight-lipped about whatever next product is coming out. But that they've got to make up for it some way. They've got to make up for that deficit somehow. And so buying out a few of these companies, it shows that they're being proactive about their media game. It shows that they're trying to stay ahead of the curve. And it also just kind of keeps us talking about the brand.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things where it's time for Apple to make moves. It really is time for them to make moves and showcase. I mean, Microsoft just finished the Nokia acquisition, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the next thing the media is talking about is like, what's going to happen, what's going to do, da da da, this and that. And we've seen, and I will say do have to give Microsoft props though. They lost very few people from this transition, very few.
Yeah.
My Nokia contacts are still there. They're now Microsoft, guys, and we've heard of very few people, especially major, except other than the guy who handled who was the head of the camera team, leave,
Mm-hmm.
which means that they at least had a vision of what they want to do, and that kind of coincides with even with people's mentality from Nokia. So for Apple, it's time for us to see, okay, all right, what's the gravy? I mean, when Facebook, which is younger
Mm-hmm.
and smaller than you, is just making waves left and right,
Right.
and granted, Facebook is mortgaging its own value to buy these companies,
Yeah.
but in the long run, you see, we can now see what Facebook vision is. It's like, man, we need to expand as a company. We need
Right.
and Apple, yes, you've made buku cash. You've made stupid money. You've made like monopoly type money where I own like half the block, actually half of the board. Forget the block, and then everyone else who's playing with me owns the other side right here. You know,
Right.
you made that kind of money. Then where you have more money than the bank. You play these monopoly games where like the bank doesn't have a change. You're like, fine, I'll drop 500 back in the bank. I'll get it later. It's okay.
Right.
That's the kind of money they have, and they haven't shown that push. All we've heard from Apple is sue, sue, sue Samsung. I mean, that's literally the biggest news we've heard from Apple,
Yeah.
rather than the innovation and steps and things like that. So, and iOS 7 also had like a faulty start last year. So, I mean, this is kind of refreshing news in the sense that they are making a push,
Yeah.
and also, want to see where that push goes altogether. Because the other thing that I find interesting is also that silent, I want to call it insider trading crap with Nike. To me, that's
Yeah.
really all bull. I mean, that's as far as I'm concerned. Even though like Sam stated, told me, he's like, what do you call Stephen Elop going to Nokia?
Well, yeah, no, we've been very upfront. That was totally a Trojan horse play. I
Yeah,
don't think anyone was trying to soften that blow.
no, no,
I don't know that there are any, especially with us Nokia fans. I don't think there are any Stephen Elop apologists out there.
no, no. I am to a certain degree. I
So
did.
to the same token, like I'm gonna call out any other sort of stock or
Uh,
company valuing move from another company too.
no, no, true. But at least in his case, right? Nokia really, excuse my language, fucked themselves up before he even got there. They were bleeding more money than you could take it, really, at that point.
Oh yeah,
So at least he tried to. The one good thing, he developed brands within the Windows system and really pushed Nokia
yeah.
as something that was savable. Let's put it that way. So
Well,
he
the move with Elop, to his credit, is he brought Nokia back to North America.
Yes.
in,
Oh, they
in a
were.
way in a way that Nokia was
Never.
completely off their radar. It was never going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
However, I still feel like we can safely say that there was definitely a long con, like with his move there. So no, no, no,
I,
no.
I agree, I agree. But the
So
Nike.
Sam's not wrong, but it's not like we were saying Elop was some awesome dude and trying to like glaze over the fact that that's what his mission was.
True, true. The problem with the Nike one is that Nike all of a sudden, first of all, Nike was makes the fuel bands. Nike refused to put the fuel bands on Android. Why? Tim Cook's on the board. No, there was no other reason. When
Yeah,
you have that kind of market, I mean, why? You have that huge market space,
yeah.
and
Well,
you
and
don't put it there.
and I mean we can safely say that it's pretty apparent how well that move worked out for Nike.
Yeah, yeah, no, it did. I mean, and then Nike decides to close shop on the fuel
Yeah.
ban. And then we hear fuel ban guys are going to where? Apple. The head of fuel
Hmm.
ban went to Apple. A couple key engineers are going over to Apple.
Yeah.
So that literally is just Apple. And that to me, the reason why it's really to me shadier than the ELOP one is that you're literally selling off a division without it being on your books
Yeah.
for free. I mean, not for free, but for buku cash that is
Yeah, I
not
mean,
in your books.
they got a fire sale deal
You
on
know,
all of that talent and all of those resources,
yeah,
and it's disappointing because it could have been straight up. It could have been they could have just made it vocal, like this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it. But instead, they tried to make it seem like it was some organic move dictated by the market, and
yeah.
you're like, that's obviously not true.
And because Nike said we're going to focus on software, I'm like, you're Nike. When did you become a software company?
Well, and this is a bummer because Nike carries a brand recognition that is sort of being wasted here. It's kind of a shame, and it's a perfect opportunity for another like a Reebok or an Adidas to come in and do you say Adidas or Adidas?
I say Adidas, but
Adidas.
I'm
Okay.
an American, but
I was just curious.
Adidas,
Just a funny pronunciation. Sorry, for our international audience out there.
yeah.
But it's a perfect opportunity for them to check out some other type of wearable technology and just crush the remnants of what Nike did. And I think the future is going to be that combination of cool shoes, savvy fashion sense, and being able to mix a little tech into the bag as well.
Oh yeah, true. And then we have a comment here from Lou Rod. He says this also makes the next MacBook a catch for music scene and DJs and the produce. Yeah, I mean it has been lately, and it's funny though. Windows has been making a push back into the music scene,
Hmm.
especially with better hardware.
Oh yeah.
Like Microsoft has also been pushing like, hey, you can use the Surface and do whatever you want. It's small, smaller, as long as you have your turntables, much smaller footprint, and you're good. So I mean, yeah, it's that catchy scene. I know a lot of DJs use Beats headphones. I laugh sometimes. I
Right.
really do. I look at that. I've told a bunch of friends who are DJs. I'm like, stop using that crap. I'm just serious. Don't even waste your time. But it's okay. I'm bringing back my hate again for Beats. So the other thing I was going to ask in our tech chat, somebody just brought this up. I'm going to glance through the article. I want to see if you have anything to add here while I look at this.
Hmm.
There's an article on Gizmodo about how Monster lost in the whole Beats battle with Beats by Dre because basically Monster was their manufacturing partner and also some of their technology provider partner too.
Right.
And now they are just completely out of the wind. This is something that they were part of. The whole process of creating this little beast.
Yeah.
And so I mean, how do you think Monster's plays into this whole thing?
Well, I mean, it's kind of well summed up by the fact that Monster has no place in the future of all this, and I'm not overly upset about that. I mean, I like my Nokia Purity Pros. I don't love my Purity Pros. I don't think I had the same reaction to them. And those are, I'm sorry, that was a joint between Nokia and Monster for their most recent Bluetooth headphones. And I think that they didn't have the same effect on me as when I first picked up a pair of BH905s. One of Nokia's first amazing Bluetooth noise
Those,
cancellation
yeah.
headphones.
Oh,
'Cause those were
yes,
glorious. They were a little weak on
yes.
they were a little weak on bass, but that was incredible noise reduction performance. I still have a pair that I use regularly. I'm trying to be careful not to like burn out the battery on them, but I love those headphones. So, my feelings with Monster, especially in the wake of how litigious the company's been, they sued the Boston Red Sox over the green Monster. They would go after any company legally that had Monster in their name. They think they went after like Monster.com, which was a jobs, how to
Yeah.
find a jobs board. Um, it, I'm not overly upset. I'm kind of fine if they get left out of this merger, but I also don't think that they brought that much to the table in terms of technology because they court anyone who's willing to partner with them for another line of branded headphones. So I can't feel like their contribution is that special to
Um,
the process of releasing headphones.
you might be wrong. I think I'm
I mean,
skimming through.
I could be. I mean, like I'm
Uh,
speaking very generally here, and I'm trying not to say
no,
anything
no,
that
no, no. I know. I'm just saying. I was going to agree
slanderous
with
and
you.
libelous, but
I was going to agree with you before, but I'm skimming through the article. It's a Gizmodo article, which is
mhm.
long. It's very long, and they show some schematics, early versions, and things like that. And it seems like, just from skimming, it looks like Monster really brought a lot to the table tech-wise, especially for their first generation stuff in there. And or first and second, because I think it was after second generation that they broke up their partnership. But it looks like they put in a lot in there, and didn't see the
Well,
fruits of
I
the
mean,
labor at the end of the
but the
day.
point I'm trying to make is that has become like Monster has become something of like an ODM. You know, back in the day, HTC phones weren't branded HTC; they were branded AudioVox, or they were the manufacturer.
T-Mobile, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they were the manufacturer behind like the old iPac, the old Windows Mobile PDAs back in the day, the Pocket PCs. You never knew that it was this company called HTC that was making this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like Monster was probably in a very similar position. They put their branding on it, but it's the Nokia purities. They put their branding on it, but Beats by Dre. And that's really what you're paying attention to. So yeah, they're in the background and they've accumulated a significant amount of audio know-how, and they sell stupidly expensive gold-plated cables that don't really do much to help improve your sound. And I think the shielding on their microphone cables kind of sucks compared to like a really nice Mogami Gold cable. But a company comes in and says, hey, we want to make headphones and then we want them to look like this, and a company starts to say like, and we want this kind of technology and we want to package all this together, and it's Monster's job to put all those pieces together. I don't I don't know that I can feel that bad for a company that is basically a visible ODM for other companies to make headphones with. Like at some point they have to know, once we build a company like Beats a pair of headphones, they can look at those headphones and then
Cheer up.
make their own. Like they don't need Monster anymore after that first round, and especially if they're looking at other partnerships and other strategic positions in the audiophile marketplace, like Apple. It's not like Apple doesn't bring some audio know-how to the table too. They don't need to bring Monster into that relationship with them.
Yeah, true. We have a couple more questions here in the Q&A. First one is from expert. He says, "Can you explain why Beats are crap? I would never buy a pair because I already think they're garbage." But he wants to get an explanation. I'd said this earlier. I'm going to kind of glance over again quickly for you, since if you missed it, since you're probably just joining us. I think they're crap. Although Juan put it nicely that they are skewed to a very certain um, genre group, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
of music. Beats to me don't do anything in terms of sound other than giving you preamps and EQs that are set to a certain level. So they're set for bass, like high levels of bass. My problem with the headphones is that the balance between bass, mids, highs, your trebles
Mm-hmm.
is off, completely off.
I
So
find that it's kind of like when you look at a photograph and the colors are way too saturated, but some people think that looks really good. With the right kind of music, the way that Beats manipulates, and I feel it's a very smiley face EQ. Like if you remember like old stereos, you had that graphic equalizer, and you could push up the bass or pull down the mids.
mids,
But I
yeah.
kind of feel like that Beats, it's like a big smiley face. There's a lot of bass, a lot of deep rumble. And then there's a lot of sparkle and crystal at the top end of their audio manipulation as well. And
Yeah.
so on cheaper headphones, when you're listening to something that's got like a Beats audio preamp, like an old HP or an HTC phone, that can kind of help flesh out the music a little bit. But when you listen on nice headphones, I think that gets in the way, and I feel that that bass manipulation comes at the expense of all of the detail and clarity in the mid-range.
Yeah.
And I think there are other companies that have done that smiley face EQ for consumer headsets in a more reasonable way. I think Sennheiser's Momentum, for example, does a really good job of manipulating certain frequencies of sound and
Yeah.
coloring. I mean, all consumer headphones sort of color the sound to a degree. I think V-Moda does a pretty good job of also doing that same smiley face EQ without wrecking the detail and clarity in the mid-range. But again, we're also talking about a very limited genre of music. So I would pull up a pair of V-Modas or a pair of Sennheisers to listen to anything, even though dubstep and heavy bass sampled hip-hop and club tracks aren't going to sound quite as punchy and as aggressive. They're going to sound way better for jazz, classical, hard rock. Like I'm a big rude boy. I love second wave ska. Like all those other genres of music. A pair of V-Modas probably aren't going to sound as good if I'm pulling up Skrillex. That's just not what they're designed for.
Yeah, true. And that, I think that sums it up right there. But even for me, if you really want bass and you don't want to pay too much money, get a pair of Audio-Technica M50s, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, Audio-Technica, but then also I would also implore anyone out there listening or watching this podcast or this hangout, if you're really into your music, if you really enjoy your audio, I would recommend starting to investigate mixing headphones. As I've gotten older, it's less about how I can manipulate the music to get something that I like, and more about, can I recreate what it was that the artist, mixing engineers, and producers set out to deliver. So instead of flipping a whole bunch of EQ faders and sliders to make something bassier, to make something brighter or more trebly, I'm really trying to find that experience where I can recapture what it is that the artist intended to put out there. So my EQ now usually stays flat, and I usually go to headphones that are very, very even. And so that's now what I've been coming to value even more, and especially like listening on monitoring headphones, which are very, very, they're almost stark. There's almost no color going on a good pair of monitors. That has become more what it is that I value, because then you really get a sense of who are good artists, who actually produced a good album. You might really like this band, but maybe their engineer on it sucked.
It's never just that. It's also the fact that you get to hear the vocals well, and then you get to understand people's range. Almost that, I wouldn't say dynamic range, but I want to use the word dynamic range because
that's totally accurate.
There's some artists where you go, wow, I didn't know she could actually. It may be subtle things, but you get to hear those little subtleties rather than it being almost masked in a flurry of color and bass and sounds and in there, and you're like, okay, it's a nice track, but I'm not exactly sure how it pumps out. But that's our kind of short but long spiel on needs. But you actually mentioned one thing that I've talked about for years, and it's something I didn't like with the iPod. I was one of those people who jumped late to the iPod. I got the second generation iPod Nano, and I hated it for two reasons. One, it also died on me quick. I actually got some money back from a lawsuit because that was a very bad line of iPods. But the other thing is that I had to mess around with my EQs so goddamn much on that MP3 player that I got tired of it. Because anytime I listen to a different genre of music, I mean, I'm one of those people who, from 1 minute, like what I listen to now mostly is a lot of movie soundtracks. I love movie soundtracks, but I move from like movie soundtracks to hip hop. I go to old school stuff from the '70s, whether it's pop back in the '70s or just like general '70s music, and then I move to like Frank Sinatra. So I just go through different ranges, and I had an issue of always playing around with my EQs here. And, I'm wondering if that's something they also will add into their products in there, because the product I really enjoyed using was the Zune. I never touched my EQs on that thing. Never did. I think Microsoft did a good job again, but we all know how they kind of messed up that product.
Again, they did a good job with the one individual product and a horrible job with the ecosystem and communicating to customers and why they should buy it.
Exactly. So, but that's something I'm interested in, to see how they will apply some of that. The EQs, like you mentioned, the EQs and the balance settings that Beats by Dre brings into their product lines, because I've always said that the iPod is not a true music listening device. But
Well,
like even
and
friends tell me they're like, I lost my Zoom. They say use your smartphone. I'm like, I don't want to mess with EQs because I know they're not
right.
really
Well,
tuned
and I
properly.
think we're really sort of discussing the difference between a device which is meant to soundtrack and a device that is built to enjoy the music listening process. And I
Yeah,
always kind of felt, and this isn't really a knock, it's just acknowledging that there are different music listening situations. And I always felt, especially the smaller iPods, were soundtracking devices. I
yeah,
just want music playing in the background of what I'm doing, and I'm focusing on doing something else. I'm working out, I'm working on the car, I'm, riding the bus. That's what the iPod, especially those smaller iPods like the iPod Nano, excelled at. I can just have sort of background music as if it were a movie soundtrack happening in my life. It wasn't really a great device for, I want to sit down and I really want to love the sound and focus on all of the nuances of what's happening in this song. The iPod Nano just wasn't built to provide that kind of experience. And I feel like the Zune got us a little bit closer to, I want to put on like a super high quality CD rip and just like sort of roll myself up in a blanket of beautiful sound. Um, we haven't had very many portable devices that I feel have approached that kind of music aesthetic, and especially moving into our phones now, like I kind of feel like maybe Nokia is the closest, and I still think that they're a couple miles away from that audiophile experience.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they use Dolby's sound tech
Well,
on
and
their stuff. Yeah,
and have you dug into, because they've got a graphic EQ. If
yeah,
you
they
go
do.
into the audio setting, the
Yeah,
music
yeah.
setting and
hmm
settings.
Yeah, I have. I'm one of those. I still don't like playing around with EQs. I was
Oh, I
really
don't either. I'm just saying,
I
like, it actually does something. It's like so many times you see like an EQ pop up and like I'll go to bass mode or I'll go to club track mode or rock mode. Whereas the Nokia EQ is just a straight up. I forget how many bands it is, but it's just a straight up graphic EQ that you can.
five or six bands. I
I
think.
want
I
to
think
say
five.
it might be a six band, but anyway, but yeah, that it allows for tailoring to a very sort of almost old school stereo kind of way.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you there. We have some more comments there. People are being active. So, Lurod says Google Play will partner with Bose as their way to come
that'd
with
be
things
that'd be a
speaker.
fine partnership too.
Yeah, that would be a fine partnership. Then Rod Johnson, gotta say it right, Rod Johnson.
Rod Johnson.
This is also a perfect combination for the sale of the next iPhone. If Apple pairs the new iPhone with a pair of Beats headphones in the box, direct ploy to lure back some of the younger generation back into the Apple Fold. Great, true. How much would that cost is also the thing I want to ask. Like, will some of that iPhone cost go up, or because one thing I noticed, especially with the iPhone 5S and 5C launch, was there was no price reduction in any form to appreciate what the market has become in smartphones. We've seen now how we have things like the Nexus and the One Plus One at that 300 price mark, and it's almost a high-end phone. I mean, really
Yeah.
is the closest thing to a bare bones high-end phone. And then we have low-end prices, and then we have true high-end prices. And Apple, I think, didn't address that properly, which is why they saw very bad sales for the iPhone 5C.
Yeah.
Is that they didn't? We can understand if you kept the 5S as being okay. This is our premium, take it or
hmm
leave it, but the 5C didn't do that. So when you add Beats into it, are you going to do that as say only for the 5S line, or that premium line, and then your C line doesn't have that, but maybe just has the Beats EQs as the only thing?
Right, and I think it's going to be a tricky position for Apple to manage, because right now I think a lot of people look at the 5C as like I'm getting punished for buying something cheaper. I'm not getting the nice version that's a
Oh,
year old.
although it's
You
just,
know.
it's just an iPhone 5.
No, but that's just it. Is like if it were just an iPhone 5, it would still be the same beautiful machined aluminum unibody construction. Like you feel like you're getting things taken away from you as opposed
True.
to I'm getting a good bargain. And that's a psychological aspect that Apple still hasn't really acknowledged in diversifying their phone lineup. Is that this isn't to punish you because you're cheap. It's, this is a value, this is a bargain, this is something else. And the C line just hasn't existed long enough for consumers to feel comfortable buying a lower end iPhone. iPhone has always just been iPhone, so it's always just been this one line of high quality premium phones. And so I can see where where some of their fan base is probably upset by the cheap line, and this is, you get less stuff and it's not made as well and it's not made as nice, and when you pull it out in public, people are going to know you bought the cheap phone, not the nice phone.
Oh, yeah. There's a couple more comments here, and also on the video itself. Funny one from Derek11, who looks like his avatar looks like Miss Stefiano from the Clippers. He says, "So will Dr. Dre buy the Clippers now that he's going to be a billionaire?" I don't know.
Why not?
Exactly, right? Why not do that? And then on the video on the YouTube page here, Mike Rose says, so instead of Apple AirPods, we will be getting a pair of iBeats instead. Windfall. Yeah, it's an improvement, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Apple EarPods. So anything they do to change up that line will be a step in the right direction.
Some on else says, it's kind of bashing here, but I'll still read it anyway. So I'm guessing if you're in a pile of shit and adding more shit will increase the smell, but will attract more flies or sheep, as the case may be. So he's referring to being Apple being a pile of. I won't agree with you there, and referring to Beats being adding more pile of stuff on that, and I can half agree with you there. So. So yeah, that's that. MKT King says, just tuned in. How much is Dr. Dre getting? I watched CNBC today, and they said he should be making about 450 million to 500 out of this deal. Yeah. Now, if he gets Apple stock included, that might skyrocket. But he definitely will be a billionaire because of this, because he's already valued at 550 as of now. So
I mean, is it legit? Is he the first billionaire?
He will be, because Forbes did their ranking, and the highest rap mogul was P. Diddy at 700 million, because Diddy just started a music TV network. He started with, I can't remember what company he partnered with, but that put him at 700, and Dr. Dre was at 550, and Jay-Z was at 500 or 450, I think probably 5. So this just skyrockets him up there. Now, if I were him, I would make sure I get a lot of Apple stock in that and just keep for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure like part of this deal, especially for individual compensation, isn't just going to be, there will be some other, I'm not going to say it's back end, but just some other compensation, especially if the Beats line does well or performs well. They probably got clauses written into how they're going to compensate for that.
Yeah, so just showing you the future of the Apple board right there. So you can see a new person there right there in the bottom right-hand corner. It's not real, of course, but this is what the new executive line will look like. Just to let you, you know, straight out of Compton right there in the lower right-hand corner. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Dre puts this into light. But the other thing I was going to ask is, what do you think is Apple's like overall strategy? I know we had touched about this left and right, because they've done all these different acquisitions, different people coming in, and I mentioned that I think they're going to move on to TVs. But what do you think their own full realization might be? Because now that Apple is making moves, we're seeing them do different things. What do you think your idea of their overall activity might be here?
I don't know. I still don't get it. No, I'm serious. Like, and please, someone in the comments on this, if you guys have some ideas on what Apple's vision might be, lay it on me, because I still don't get their living room strategy. I think the iPad was such a disruptive force to the rest of their product lineups, and it took so much of their focus that I'm not sure what an Apple living room or an Apple media strategy looks like beyond iPhone and iPad. I don't get what they're doing. And if it's just a TV with an Apple TV built into it, that's several years out of date for any kind of crazy excitement. Like, we have smart TVs. That's not a big deal.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at that TV environment, you're going to look at, of course, the introduction of Siri into that, and also
no, I know, but I mean, like, even Amazon has beaten them to the punch with talking to your TV. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not wrong. That is cool, but it's not genre defining. It's not. They have not defined a new niche since the iPad. You know what I mean? And that's what we kind of need from Apple for excitement. Not for them to sell well and to pull in good financials and to be a successful company, but we're missing that Apple defining a new product genre excitement. And they can't just create it with Tim Cook going out on stage to say this is the most forward-thinkingest television ever. You know, it's not going to happen. They actually need to produce something that makes me rethink how I use my living room if they want us to be lit up about it. And that's what I just don't see. I don't see the talent at Apple to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I would sort of agree with you. I'm not sure where. Even though when Sam was trying to tell me today, I wasn't convinced either that they have a strategy that begs me, that almost like wants me to go, wow, you know what? I can't wait to see what Apple does because nothing really makes sense in my mind. Yeah, at least it's almost like they're going to attack the smartwatch market. We know that, and they want to attract the living room market with the TVs. And what we've seen from the living room is what Microsoft. I think it's scary because, to me, it's really funny how there've been all this talk this week about Bill Gates saying, oh, they're gonna sell off Xbox. He's like, no, I'm just gonna support my CEO, whatever he wants to do. It's cool.
Right.
That's pretty much what he said. He was like, if he wants to sell it, if he thinks it's a good business move, yeah, I'll support him. But really, if you look at what they're doing in Xbox, is that we know a Microsoft Xbox Entertainment has 11 shows planned. Meaning now as an Xbox Live user, you're getting more bang for your buck. Besides all the gaming and some of the free downloads and all that, you're now getting TV shows. Now, and the other half of it is that they've optioned one of these shows, one of the Halo series, to be on Showtime.
Yeah.
They're expanding their universe. They're making it more. Xbox Live becomes a value commodity, like Netflix became a value commodity. Now, think about it. If you are an Xbox Live user, why not then have your shows? Apple's sitting at $45 billion and has not made one single thing. They could have made 10 movies by now and never scratched $1 billion.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, and especially like, the way that those production budgets can come in a lot leaner when you're talking about just digital distribution.
That's another thing, is that they have not looked at what they created with iTunes and said, why don't we push an online network? And then expand iTunes to every single device. Because if I'm Apple, I'm just saying, I'm putting it as a strategy. I go, and no one I think has talked about it, say, hey, you know what? We have iTunes. Screw that. iTunes goes to iOS and Windows Phone. It's coming. Then you start, that's music. So we know there's a music there. You can download TV shows. Then we now say, like, you know what? We're trying to get in this TV game. And it's not really working well because we can't get solid partnerships with Warner Brothers, Universal, Sony Pictures, Disney especially. That's going to be hard because Disney wants to do its own thing. So fine. How much cash do we have? Wait, we have more than Disney. Forget you. You know what? Spielberg. Yeah. Right. You want to make what again?
I think the issue with that is it's Apple following in the footsteps of companies that have already been doing this. I mean, you're not wrong. That gets us talking about Apple. It gets us interested in maybe doing business with iTunes again. I haven't really purchased anything on iTunes in years.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
But it's still not. It's another example of Apple reacting to a market that has already matured without them.
Yeah.
Not Apple taking the reins and driving any kind of innovation or creating any type of ecosystem that we haven't seen before. That makes me go, wow, I really need to jump on this Apple thing. It used to be, and we've talked about this before, it used to be every Apple keynote, I would leave going, I'm still not going to buy an iPhone, but damn, I want that one fill-in-the-blank feature.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, I really wish we had that on Android, or I really wish we had that, on the BlackBerry or whatever it was we were using in the past.
No, I agree. I think in that realm of creating shows and creating your own content on iTunes, I think yeah, they were always going to be reactionary, but I think it's also the timing of that reaction. When Netflix picked up House of Cards and there was a lot of buzz there, and once the first season just hit and everybody was like, whoa, we can all watch 22 episodes like that.
Yeah.
That's when Apple should have just gone, okay. Now Microsoft had to take its time because I understand their process was Xbox 360 could do it, but the Xbox One is really the way to actually push it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And they had a product to back that push. Same thing with Sony. Sony to a certain degree, as much as they should have done this way earlier than anyone else, I
Right.
still like the package with the PlayStation.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
a it's a
and that
package
makes a lot of sense because we're talking about needing to develop an ecosystem, not
system.
just here's
Exactly.
one service that you can use.
Exactly.
But I mean, when we look at that, I mean, look at all the examples that you just gave. So Apple's going to come up with a TV and start producing their own content in a world where Sony, Microsoft, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go, Amazon, probably more, all exist pretty much already using that direct to consumer digital content distribution business model. So they have a really steep hill to climb in convincing me that putting Apple gear in my living room makes any more sense outside of just wanting to maybe watch a show or two that they're producing. You know, like it's not really bringing me into the fold. I sort of acquiesce. And like if they produce a show and I really, really want to watch it and I have to buy an Apple TV to do it, okay, I'll begrudgingly do that. Maybe if the show's good enough to warrant that. But Netflix as a service is already doing something very, very similar, and it doesn't force me to buy proprietary hardware to do that.
HBO Go. I mean, HBO has broken out the mold from cable and said, you know what? Eventually you can get just basic cable and HBO. And
Right.
very soon they're going to start doing just pay for the app and be done.
Right. And was like and so it's May and I still have not jumped on a next generation console. But if I buy an Xbox One, I get a lot more than just the ability to watch Microsoft content. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's actually changing up how my living room functions.
Functions. Yeah.
So Apple has to bring something like that to the table to really warrant why it is that I'll even consider participating with Apple content.
Maybe they will just use that money and buy Nintendo.
You know, I mean, as how companies sort of function, it's maybe not a bad brand synergy. You know, it's not a bad brand pairing. But
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt Nintendo will bite for any offers right now. So Apple would have to find some way of making it a hostile takeover.
Yeah, true, but their financials have been looking very weak, and investors could really push for that too. If Apple comes up and says we're going to buy you for $20 billion, yeah, the value is less than that.
How sad would that be? All that Nintendo IP under Apple's umbrella.
I would be,
Oh.
I would not touch a Nintendo product again. I will buy a GameCube again, and I would download as much Nintendo stuff on the Wii U if I can,
Right.
and just be like done.
And I'm gonna go hit eBay and find all of my old Super Nintendo and Nintendo cartridges there.
Cartridge, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but again, it would be an interesting buy for them to do because that might help bring some of that gaming elements into it and create a device where you now have. First of all, you could just start off with just downloadable Nintendo games, like
Yeah.
all the way, and then you have Apple providing the TV services and things like that, and it becomes truly a fully functional entertainment system that can connect with all your devices, and Nintendo's also into all the fitness and things like that. So your smartwatch band connecting to your TV and all that it's almost in styles. They are very synergistic type of company, like you said. They almost fit, hand
Well,
in
and
glove.
also, I mean, bringing old school Nintendo games to the iPad would be pretty huge.
Jesus Christ, Apple Store would close down.
No, I'm serious. I mean, like, no joke. I mean, I think that would be pretty huge. I think that would be a great way to sort of bring some of like this idea of mobile gaming and stuff to.
And this clean bank. I remember a buddy of mine
Mhm.
was like, yeah, Nintendo might just need to go software, and we're talking about it. It's like, hey, look at Sega. Sonic sells at $6, the old Sonic on iOS, and sells very well. I mean,
Mhm.
it's still one of the top selling games. And I was like, if you just put Mario 1 on there, that's it. They even need to release another title for at least another 6 months. Just the first Mario. Everybody's like, oh my,
Man.
oh snap! I haven't played this in a while. And then all the young kids are trying to play it, and they're like, this is so hard. And the dad's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to fire up the Xbox One until you beat Contra.
Exactly. Forget it. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're talking about all these different synergies and as it brings things to the table, then you get to play. Think about it, right? Just think about this combined full combination of you with your iWatch doing some fitness stuff on your Nintendo Apple-esque type device and playing Mario on your iPhone with the Beats logo behind, and with your gold headphones because it's going to be gold anyway and stuff like that. So, although somebody did mention here, let me sign the notes. It said, so we finally see red and white iPhones and iPads? No, don't even dream about that one. What you're going to see is simply this right here. You might see the Beats logo. It will be definitely smaller. It'll be definitely smaller on that. But
And I'd even be really surprised if that ever showed up on
or
an iPhone. Like
the
maybe part of the splash screen when you boot your iPhone up, there's a Beats logo there. But
no, I don't
I'd
really
be
think.
surprised. I'd be really surprised if Apple put any other branding on their products other than the Apple logo.
Or maybe your headphones that will come in will be Beats.
That actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
If the branding were on the headphones, just because I mean, like all of the tech that goes into a MacBook, for example, you'll never see Intel branding on
No,
a MacBook. You know what I mean? So I seriously doubt that we'll see Beats logos proper on iPhones or iPads.
No, not at all. But what I think you will see is, yeah, it's on that. You may get different headphone colors. It'll be interesting to see if they say, hey, buy your silver or gold, what do you call it again? iPhone 6 with red headphones. You know, they might have,
Right.
that may be hard to skew, but they might just do two color headphones, maybe white and something else or something like that, just to give you some kind of flavor. But it's going to be interesting to see what this deal plays in place, because the funny thing about this deal is nobody knows why Apple is buying Beats. Like,
We're all just speculating.
I've gone through a bunch of financial sites today, and no one has a clue. You know, everyone's talked about, is it going to be because of Jimmy?
iovine.
Yes, I was going to say McLovin now. So
Jimmy McLovin.
um,
Good old Jimmy.
because of Jimmy? Is it because of Beats EQs into their headphones? Is it also because of improving audio across all Apple devices? You know,
Yeah.
or are they looking at Beats Music to take over the streaming functions for iTunes so that they can now have it across the board on different devices? So even if they lose customers, they always will be connected with Beats. So there's a bunch of things, you know, in there. Or they're just trying to buy it for Dr. Dre's street cred, man. I mean, that might be it.
Just help a brother out.
Yeah, straight out of Compton. Just a couple of let's before we round up, let's just answer a couple of the comments and questions here. Joggy Glenn Matz, I think, right? Oh, that just disappeared. She says, "Oh, Beats logo in the boot screen." Ha ha ha. No.
I mean, I think that's probably more likely than putting a Beats sticker on the back of the phone.
Yeah. Apple will define TV market with Comcast and make you pay for nothing but the name, says Lou Rod.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is if Apple's living room strategy is a direct pipe from cable providers, then that's cool-ish. But I still don't think that consumers will fully understand the implications of that to a point where they're excited about putting Apple gear in their living rooms.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree. And on the let's see, in the YouTube video, where am I? I need to refresh. It's really funny. It doesn't tell you that you actually have comments on the YouTube video.
Right.
Yeah. Mike Rose says Apple brings Super Mario Bros. And the iPad would be awesome sauce. That
Well,
would
and also I just think the idea of like a Nintendo branded Bluetooth controller for iPad would be huge.
Yeah, true.
30 bucks and it'll sell like crazy.
Yes. We have a couple more comments from Mike Rowe, who says Apple is going to redefine the whole phablet genre. IMH, oh, sorry. Mike Rowe says, answer, sir, is the iPhone 6 a phablet in the next generation? I think the rumor is what, 5.5 inches or so?
Well, and from some of the leaked photos that we've seen, what the shell might look like, I guess. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, no, because I saw something yesterday saying there will be a 4.7 and a 5.5 iPhone. So
I know a lot of iPhone users that are going to be very upset by that.
yeah, they will be.
And,
But
and, and, and personally, just because I have tiny, girly little hands, I will be upset that there won't be. If those are the only two iPhones, if it's not like a range of three iPhones, like a 4-inch, a 4.7, and a 5.5. If it's just the 4.7 and 5.5, that will lose the last premier small form factor phone. The iPhone was really the only game left that was a high quality premier smartphone experience, but in a small form factor.
And as a guy with regular hands, I would just say, it's glad they left the Stone Age, so I don't have to do this and also
Right.
do that on my hands. But
But I mean, like this
I
thing,
agree
like
with you. A range is
it's
much
just so big.
a range is much better for consumers anyway. I agree
Having
with you
some
there.
option, I mean,
Okay.
like literally, like
Samsung and everybody else, they do give you options from mini to,
well,
to
but
whatever you want.
the problem with the minis is that they're always hamstrung. It's usually like dual core processor instead of the quad core, 1 gig of RAM instead of 2. Like you always have these huge compromises. Like I think the only one that maybe stands as a high quality Android phone would be the Sony, the Z2 Compact or whatever it's called.
Oh, Z1S. There was the Z1S that came out on T-Mobile.
Oh no, the Z1S is still a pretty big phone. I'm saying they had a Z2 Compact that they announced, which was
okay, yeah, which is
like
the
a
same specs, yeah.
4.3-inch screen, but it still had a quad core, the Qualcomm 800 processor. It still had 2 gigs of RAM. It still had their high quality camera sensor. Everything else was still top of the line, as opposed to we'll gimp everything because it's smaller. In Android land, if it's smaller, it's mid range, and that's always been a bummer.
Although the rumor of the Galaxy S5 Mini is a Qualcomm 400, but my guess is that are they actually going to try and attack that? If it's priced at the Moto G pricing, then that would be very nice.
Yeah, and you know what though? But the thing that bugs me is we're calling it a mini, but it's still the same size as a Galaxy S3, and that's not a mini phone. The Galaxy S5 Mini is almost the same form factor as the Galaxy S3. That is not mini. 4.3 and smaller is mini. You might as well call it the Galaxy S5 smaller than the regular Galaxy S5.
Okay.
But not mini. It's
Not
not
mini.
mini. It's not a mini phone. If it's almost a 5-inch diagonal screen, that's not mini.
Okay, Mike Rose says X1 by Xfinity already has voice control. Yes, they do. I do have the Xfinity platform, and it works pretty well. And then Filipino Man 56 says, do you think Apple will increase the price of the iPhones as rumored before because of the acquisition of Beats? They shouldn't.
I don't think they're going to increase. No. I don't think Beats is going to have anything to do with it.
No, but I don't think you will see a cheaper price either. Unless they come up with a 5C-ish line that really is cheap.
No. I think what we'll see is sort of a baseline price that falls in line with everything that we've seen from past iPhones, but that if there really are going to be two flavors of the iPhone, sort of a medium-sized and a large size, that the large size will follow in the pricing increases that we see between like the various iPads that are out on the market.
Yeah. No,
so I think there will be more expensive iPhones. There will be more expensive iPhones, but I think there will always be that starter price, which is probably going to be $199 on contract,
yeah.
Was it like usually like $650 unlocked, something like that?
Yeah, $650 unlocked or so. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, that's it, guys. We've been chatting for about an hour, slightly plus of 10 minutes or so.
And we've covered a whole range of topics outside of just Beats on.
Yeah. But the one consensus is simply this: we have no bloody clue why they're buying Beats.
Nope.
I tell you that we've speculated a bunch, and also again, mind you, this purchase might not actually go through. Who knows? It's not official. Although Dr. Dre is popping bottles in his home, and he just bought Tom Brady's $50 million mansion, so that begs to say that he probably, is like, hey, cash is coming.
a little cash burning a hole in his pocket. I better buy a mansion.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But if you have any more questions or comments on this, do leave it with the video. We love all your comments, guys. Thank you. I appreciate you joining us this afternoon/morning on the West Coast. Just leave your thoughts. What you think? What do you think? Leave your thoughts on why you think they're buying Beats by Dre, and also leave your thoughts on what you think Apple's overall strategy is, especially with all the different acquisitions and people jumping over. Just let us know. We'll chime in. We'll answer questions and all that fun stuff.
And I'm also curious, like, if this kind of acquisition goes through, does that make you more likely to pick up or consider Apple products in the future? Like for those of us that are media junkies out there, it's an interesting proposition.
Yeah, yeah, definitely is, definitely is. So, yes, thank you very much, guys, and do check out Juan's YouTube channel, Some Gadget Guy on YouTube. He's got some great long form videos, some good audio stuff. If you want to know about sound, especially on your devices, if they're good, if they're bad, if you know just everything from sound to specifics. He goes down to the nitty gritty of what you're looking for. So definitely check him out, Some Gadget Guy on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google Plus. It's right there in front of you. Some Gadget Guy.
Bam.
Yeah, exactly. And don't also check out our channel. It's Bored at Work, and my lower third is missing. Wow. For some reason, I didn't put it up. I'm sorry, guys. I
Oh, I didn't
apologize.
even notice, dude. Sorry, I would have said something.
Whatever. That's still wow. It's just
Hey, there you go.
I didn't put it up, but
That's
yeah.
who you are.
It's Border Work. It's Border Work on YouTube. It's also Border Work Google Plus, Facebook. Subscribe to the channel. Check out our videos. We've got a lot of content, especially hardware, hangouts, all that fun stuff. But thank you very much, guys. Stay tuned. Also join us tomorrow for our weekly hangout at 11:30 a.m. I was going to say 9 p.m. I don't know why. I really was going to say 9 p.m. 11:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. We joined by Juan as well as other cast of characters. And thank you very much, guys. This is Thunder E saying thank you again, and always enjoy your entertainment.
Sweet.